We're now months out of the tragic derailment in East Palestine that devastated a community, and still nothing being passed to actually make tragedies like that less likely. There is a bill that is being worked on, or at least what's left of it, because will you be shocked when you hear that industry that could potentially lose a little bit of money with new regulations has been trying to undercut it behind the scenes. It's a first for American politics. I don't like it as a precedent, but we have this information thanks to The Lever, and they show that one of the companies that manufactures some of the chemicals that were spilled in that derailment has been putting millions of dollars into the pockets of those who will determine if this bill goes through, if it literally ever goes through. And that is Occidental Petroleum. They've been lobbying on rail and tank car safety, and its lobbying group, the American Chemistry Council, which sounds so nice, has donated $250,000 to the main House GOP super PAC, pushing for changes weakening the bill in committee. So just a reminder of where we started off from. The original Railway Safety Act directed the transportation secretary to expand the definition of high hazard flammable trains to apply to more, required a minimum of 2 crew members on most freight trains, which seems like the literal bare minimum. It would increase the maximum fines that the Department of Transportation can impose for safety violations and issue new regulations around wayside defect detectors that go along the rail lines. So that was the original thing. And actually, one of the bill's original co-authors, J.D. Vance, is one of those who are helping to weaken it right now. Back on May 10th, they proposed amendments to that legislation. One of the amendments delayed by 3 years the requirement that shippers replace old tank cars that are vulnerable to punctures with upgraded cars. Federal regulators had recommended the 2025 deadline included in the original bill, but chemical and rail supply industry lobbyists pushed for a delay, which sort of makes sense. I mean, these cars are so old that they could break at any moment, so we should definitely let people use them for 3 more years. Anyway, a lobbying group for both Occidental as well as other oil and chemical producers, which see nearly 1 million tons of their products transported across the country by trains each year, pushed back against the deadline for new, safer tank cars because it said the cost of doing so, quote, would pose significant burdens on manufacturers, shippers, and consumers. And that, of course, cannot be allowed. That is a serious, significant burden. You know, not like something light and easy to get past, like a train derailing your town and unleashing a massive flaming cloud of toxic chemicals that sickens people and kills animals and makes your town inextricably linked with that tragedy for the rest of American history. That's easy to move on from. We're talking about profits here, people. Anyway, in addition to the $250,000, I'll close for now with this. There's other regulations being stripped out too, but Occidental donated $2 million in June to the Senate Leadership Fund, the main super PAC for Senate Republicans, 3 weeks after the railroad bill was weakened in committee. So they weakened the bill, 3 weeks later, $2 million being handed over. $2 million, presumably less than it would cost to buy the cars, one would hope. But anyway, it seems crazy. I know that we talk about campaign finance a lot here, but these massive sums of money changing hands when like a groundbreaking reform bill that doesn't even go as far as many would want, environmentalists and industry advocates, but it would at least do something, is being debated. They're handing over literally millions of dollars, and all of this is legal. Don't you dare call it a bribe.
Yeah, this is why I get super mad at corporate Democrats and mainstream media. And you might say, well, Cenk, wait a minute. Aren't the top people responsible here the Republicans? Oh, absolutely. And Occidental has already spent $5.9 million lobbying this year alone. So we're not like the fake left. Criticize Republicans first, because they're the primary culprits in this story, for sure. They're the ones siphoning off, they're doing the I drink your milkshake, right? And taking all this lobbyist money and then pretending to help the people of East Palestine and then betraying them, 100% stabbing them in the back because they got bribed to. Now, having said that, why am I mad at Democrats and media? Because it's so easy to fight against this if you're a Democrat. You just out them. You go look at these corrupt Senate Republicans taking millions of dollars and betraying the people that they pretended to care about. Remember how the Republicans were like, oh yeah, I bet it derailed around there because the town is mainly white and voted for Trump? Like, So why don't you out them and say, hey, no, that mainly Trump Republican town, it's your Republican politicians who are crooks who took millions from the train companies to totally screw you over. Why don't they say it, even though it's the biggest layup in American politics? Because they also take corporate money. So they never, ever, ever criticize the Republicans for it. Well, just, there's that old Saturday Night Live skit with Jim Belushi yelling, just give him the queen while you're at it. Just give it to him. Give him the queen, right? And they do every day. The Democrats walk in and go, how do we help Republicans? Oh, let's not point out their number one problem, corruption. That they're the guys who created the goddamn swamp and live in that swamp. Because the Democrats are also swamp creatures. So and by the way, progressives, what are you doing in Congress? Jesus Christ, can you do something? No, but if we criticize the Republicans for taking that money, then some of our Democratic colleagues will also catch feelings, and we wouldn't want to upset Hakeem Jeffries. Get in the goddamn fight, man. Have you heard anyone in Congress halfway as animated as we are about this? All right, now, but mainly the number one culprit, no, number one is Republicans, but overall, 1A is the media. Every time, so the Lever does this because they're great independent reporters. That's David Sirota's organization. And the rest of the media hates David Sirota. They're like, oh, that guy with his stupid truth again. I hate that guy, constantly printing things that are true. But who does he even do marketing for? I can't even tell. He seems to criticize Republicans and Democrats. So what does he get? Who's paying him for the propaganda? I know it's shocking to you if you're a reporter in DC, but he's not getting paid for propaganda. He's just reporting things that are true. Oh, have I hurt your goddamn feelings? Why don't you report about the bribery once in your goddamn lives? Just retire. Every reporter in Washington, retire immediately. This is what drives politics. The millions in bribes. No, never heard of it, I don't know. I'm gonna cover this. Oh, Buttigieg is really trying being tough on the trains companies. He's told them, oh, knock it off. And then the Republicans really trying to fight for those Trump voters in East Palestine. We'll see how this ideological divide breaks down. Why don't you just tell me about the Cats and Hamilton random Broadway plays I named? Okay, because you're telling me about theater. You're not telling me about what actually happens in politics. Any political reporter that isn't writing about these bribes is not really a reporter. They're in marketing and they just don't realize it.
It blew my mind. I go, they can't afford two people? Like, they're an oil company. I'm a comedian. When I go on tour, I have to pay for my opening act. There's two of us. They can at least pay for an opening act train conductor. Like, I mean, that's the least they can do. And this goes back to how, like you guys were saying, the difference between, Jake, what's going on with what the Republicans do, that they're very good at messaging, versus what the Democrats don't do, which is they're not as good at messaging, which is, it goes beyond obviously writing articles, because people, you and I, we all read articles, but there's a lot of people who are not reading articles. But there should be ads being run in these places, in these states, to show the people who claim that they were gonna come to the rescue of these people, and now they're backing the corporations because the corporations are paying them money. I was just on tour overseas, and every time we would eat and I would, go to tip, the people there were like, oh, no, we don't tip here because they actually get a good wage. But in America, the customer is supposed to pay the wage of the service staff or whatever that is, because these corporations are so greedy, and they claim this whole trickle down economic that doesn't work. And we end up in these situations where these companies that have, millions and billions of dollars are saying, oh, we can't regulate our trains because it's going to cost us too much. Well, that's the point. It should cost money to fix them. Otherwise, we're going to end up with situations like we have right now, where we've neglected the infrastructure for years and years, and we're finally getting to it. And that actually goes back to another point that you were just talking about, Cenk, which is, when these types of things happen, a lot of these Republicans come out and they say, look, this was a white Trump supporting area, and that's why the explosion happened here. And yet those same people that were talking don't show up for their people. It's kind of like, what happened with the infrastructure bill, where a lot of Republicans were against it. And then you got people like Tommy Tuberville putting out a tweet going, I'm so happy that we're finally getting internet for my people in my state. And whereas he didn't even back that the infrastructure bill. So, it's all dirty politics to be expected, but you would wish there were some interest groups that would have some money to show and out these people so that the next time you have someone from one of these areas that's been affected by something like this, they can make an intelligent decision, an intelligent choice, and say, I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, you came to my town and said you're gonna do something about it, and then you went and voted against the bill that was gonna do something about it.
Yeah.
I'll add one last quick thing. Maz makes a great point there. So whether you're a Democrat or Republican or independent, whenever a politician talks about this, just ask them, how much money have you taken from this industry? I guarantee you each time they'll go, oh no, I mean, no big deal. I mean, I'll have to look into it. I'll have to look into it. Because they're all crooks. They all get bribed by these industries, no matter what the issue is.
It's so weird that they're not proud of how much they've been given, since it's not a bribe.
Not at all, it's just free speech.
They support democracy, you should be proud of it.
Yeah, and those rail companies are just giving for the general welfare, right?
Yeah.
They're not expecting the Republicans to deregulate so they can keep having these disasters and make more money off of your deaths. No, right? No, it's just they're being charitable. So why don't you be proudly declare, Republicans, that you take this money from these beloved rail corporations?
I'm gonna close with just two more things. One, just to remind people of how serious this is, because as a country, we all got together for a week and a half and talked about East Palestine, and then that was it. But the Transportation Trades Department of the AFL-CIO said in a statement, they wanted to remind everyone that there have been more than 1,000 freight train derailments in a year. More than 60 high-profile derailments just since East Palestine, including multiple in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Montana. That when you're reminded of that, that is horrifying to regular people. But the industries already know that, and they don't care. But to close, I don't want to leave you thinking, coming out of this big discussion, that what's going to end up being passed is going to be some sort of stripped down, pointless bill. That's not what's going to happen. They're probably not going to pass literally anything. It's probably going to be killed in the Senate. Fun little fact, I didn't even know this. The second highest ranking Senate Republican, John Thune, is a former rail industry lobbyist. And what do you know? He's fighting the legislation. So probably nothing will be done. Look, I guess stay tuned to find out if your town will be the site of the next high profile derailment.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.